Can you still buy a home in Northern Virginia for $500,000? Yes, but for that same price, you may be choosing between a high-rise view in Arlington and a front yard in Woodbridge. One buyer gets metro access, coffee shops, restaurants, and a shorter commute. Another buyer gets multiple bedrooms, a backyard, and enough space to stop storing bicycles in the dining room. Neither choice is automatically better, but they are completely different lifestyles. Today, I'm showing you exactly what that trade-off looks like from Arlington and Alexandria to Springfield and Woodbridge. By the end of this video, you should have a much clearer idea of where your $500,000 budget actually fits here in Northern Virginia. Let's begin with the obvious reality. Northern Virginia is expensive. If you're hoping that $500,000 will buy a renovated detached house with a large yard, a short commute, great walkability, and no compromises, you are probably going to be disappointed. That combination generally does not exist at this price. But $500,000 is not a dead-end budget. It is still enough to give you some very legitimate choices. You simply need to be honest about one question. What is the one thing that you are okay giving up? Are you willing to trade square footage for location? Would you give up a yard to stay closer to Washington, D.C.? Would you accept an older kitchen if it gives you an extra bedroom? And would you drive farther if it means having your own front door, a garage, or some outdoor space? At $500,000, the smartest buyers are not searching for a perfect home. They're figuring out which compromise bothers them the least. Let's start in Arlington. At approximately $500,000, you're generally not shopping for a detached house. You're primarily looking at condos. But that does not mean that you're settling. For the right buyer, Arlington offers one of the most valuable things that you can buy in Northern Virginia: time. In Ballston or Virginia Square, your budget may put you into a one-bedroom condo or a smaller two-bedroom unit, depending on the building, the condition, and the monthly condo fee. You may be able to walk to metro, restaurants, coffee shops, grocery stores, gyms, and Ballston Quarter. If you work in DC, Roslyn, Tysons, or along the Orange Line corridor, that kind of convenience can change your daily routine. You may spend less time in traffic and more time actually living your life. If metro is less important to you, your money may stretch farther along Columbia Pike in Arlington. You may find a larger condo, an extra bedroom, or more parking while remaining close to the Pentagon, National Landing, Shirlington, and major commuter routes. It's not Clarendon. It's not trying to be Clarendon. But for some buyers, Columbia Pike area makes a lot more sense for the wallet. Then you have Fairlington. Fairlington is one of the best examples of how condo living can feel very different from a typical elevator building. Instead of hallways and high-rise views, you have brick, garden-style buildings, mature trees, walking paths, green space, and a more residential atmosphere. A $500,000 budget might give you a two-bedroom unit, and depending on the property, you might have a patio, balcony, or a townhouse-style layout. The Arlington buyer is saying, I would rather live smaller if it means I can stay close to the things I use every day. But maybe Arlington feels too tight. Maybe you still want to remain close to DC, but you want a little more variety. That's when Alexandria becomes very interesting. Alexandria gives you more ways to spend that same $500,000 budget. But you need to understand that Alexandria is not one single market. The city of Alexandria and the larger Alexandria mailing address areas in Fairfax County can feel very different from one another. Your lifestyle changes depending on the neighborhood. Let's start with Park Fairfax. Park Fairfax is one of the most interesting close-in options for buyers who want charm, greenery, and proximity without paying steep Arlington prices. You have garden-style buildings, mature landscaping, walking paths, community pools, and relatively easy access to Shirlington, Delray, Old Town, and I-395. You may not even need to spend your entire budget, and that can leave you room for updates, furniture, or simply a more comfortable monthly payment. Park Fairfax is not perfect. The homes are older, parking can vary, and some units need substantial work. It's important to understand the condo association and your maintenance responsibilities. But for the right buyer, it offers something difficult to replicate: close-in neighborhood atmosphere at a relatively attainable price. If you want more interior space, Cameron Station and Alexandria's West End may make more sense. You may find a larger condo, garage parking, more amenities, or a more functional layout. Cameron Station especially has a distinct community feel with parks, walking paths, neighborhood amenities, and convenient access to Duke Street, I-395, Old Town, and the entire West End. The surrounding area is continuing to evolve. The trade-off is simple. You are not walking out your front door onto King Street, but you may have a little bit more room to breathe. Now, could $500,000 get you into Old Town? Possibly, but you're usually looking at a smaller condo, an older building, fewer amenities, or less parking. You are not buying size. You're buying the ability to walk to restaurants, coffee shops, parks, Potomac waterfront, and the historic district. This is why Alexandria is so interesting at this $500,000 price point. You're not simply deciding how many bedrooms you want. You're deciding whether you want charm, space, amenities, or walkability. But what happens if Alexandria still does not give you quite enough space? Maybe you want or need an extra bedroom. Maybe you need a dedicated home office. Perhaps you want to stay relatively close in, but Arlington and Old Town are forcing you into a smaller condo than you really want at your budget. That's when Falls Church and Annandale might deserve a closer look. Falls Church and Annandale do not always receive the same attention as Arlington, Old Town, or Delray. That can work in your favor. First, let me make an important clarification. When people say Falls Church, they may mean the small city of Falls Church or the larger Falls Church mailing address areas in Fairfax County. The city of Falls Church itself can be difficult at this price point. But in the surrounding Fairfax County portions of Falls Church, you may find larger condos, 2-bedroom units, 3-bedroom units, and occasional townhouse style options. And here's why this might make sense for your wallet. In these areas, you'd remain close to Route 50, I-495, the Mosaic District, Tysons, Arlington, and major employment centers without paying the premium attached to the most recognizable close-in neighborhoods. Annandale is another area that buyers sometimes overlook. You may find older townhouses, larger condos, or more interior space than you would get closer to DC. You also have access to the Beltway, Little River Turnpike, Route 236, and major commuter routes. And Annandale has one of the most distinctive restaurant scenes in Northern Virginia. If you've already looked at Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Annandale, and realize you still need more walls and fewer neighbors, that's when we need to move towards Springfield. In Springfield, the townhouse finally becomes a realistic option at this price. As you move into Springfield, the type of home you can buy begins to change. At approximately $500,000, you may find a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom townhouse, often in an older community. That may give you multiple levels, separation between the bedrooms and the living room, more storage, assigned parking, and possibly a patio or small yard. For a buyer working from home, a couple planning to grow into the home, or someone who simply wants a little more breathing room, that can be a meaningful upgrade. Let's be honest, at $500,000, you're probably not getting a completely renovated garage townhouse with a large finished basement in the most desirable pocket of West Springfield. You may need to accept an older kitchen. You may see dated bathrooms, pink tile, blue tile. You may have smaller bedrooms. You may need to update the flooring or paint after you move in, but you are starting to get something that feels more like a traditional home. The Arlington buyer may say, I want to live close to everything. The Springfield buyer may say, I still want reasonable access to the region, but I need a home that functions differently. Neither buyer is wrong. They are solving different problems. Now, what if even the Springfield townhouse still feels too tight? What if your top priority is a yard, more bedrooms, a garage, or a more traditional suburban home? That is when the search moves further south. Once you reach Woodbridge, your $500,000 budget behaves very differently. This is where larger townhouses and detached single-family homes begin to reappear. Depending on the exact neighborhood, condition, and competition, you may find a 3-bedroom townhouse with considerably more space than you would get in Springfield. And in some parts of Woodbridge, a detached house may come back into the conversation. That is a dramatic contrast with Arlington. For the same purchase price, You may now be comparing a condo near the metro in Ballston, a garden-style home in Park Fairfax, a larger condo in Falls Church or Annandale, a starter townhouse in Springfield, or a larger townhouse or detached house in Woodbridge. However, do not assume that the Woodbridge house is automatically the better value. It may be the right answer for you, but it may also be the wrong answer. If you save money on the house, but spend many additional hours every week commuting, sitting in traffic on 95, or driving to every activity that you do, that larger home comes with a hidden cost. Sometimes buyers purchase more house and accidentally purchase less life. So how do you decide? Before you start touring homes, ask yourself these 5 questions. Number 1, how often do I actually commute? If you work near the Pentagon, downtown DC, National Landing, Roslyn, Tyson's, or Fort Belvoir, the right answer for you may be completely different. Question number 2, do I really need a yard? Or do I simply like the idea of having one? Some buyers love having a yard. Other buyers discover that they have purchased a weekly maintenance project. Question number 3, how long do I expect to stay? A condo may work beautifully for you for the next 3 to 5 years. A townhouse may give you more room to grow. And a detached home farther south may make more sense if you expect to stay longer and you need additional space. Question number 4, what is the real monthly cost? Don't focus only on the purchase price. You also need to consider the condo fees, the HOA fees, utilities, parking, maintenance, commuting, and renovation costs. A cheaper home is not always cheaper to own. Question number 5, which compromise will bother me the least? That may sound negative, but it is one of the most useful questions in real estate. Every home involves compromise. The goal is not to eliminate compromise. The goal is to avoid the compromise that will make you resent your home 6 months after moving in. So, what does $500,000 buy you in Northern Virginia? More than many people think, but it does not buy everything at once. You can have walkability, or you can have square footage. Maybe you prioritize a shorter commute, or outdoor space, or you prioritize a more traditional suburban home, or perhaps you want to have more money left over each month for the rest of your life. These are different options. The smartest buyers do not begin by scrolling through listings. They begin by deciding what kind of life they actually want their home to support. I'm Brian Block with the Block Real Estate Group. I'm a Northern Virginia realtor for 24 years, managing broker, and a former attorney. If you're trying to decide where your budget fits best in Northern Virginia, please reach out to me. I would be happy to help you think through all the trade-offs before you start touring homes. And if you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel. I'm creating an entire series showing what different budgets actually buy across Northern Virginia.